Welcome once again. And at this juncture, we are going to discuss logging in using student account in our PLMS. For this tutorial, I'm going to discuss logging in using the student account. So I hope your PLMS is still running. If not, kindly start your PLMS. So once you have your PLMS open, you will be redirected automatically to the login page, right? So all you have to do is click on the login button. So at this stage, I am going to log in using the student account, which I have already in my virtual class. And before I can enroll as a student, make sure you have also students already enrolled in your respective courses. So I believe you have done that already. So we now log in using the student account. So I have here a student. So let me use a student 3. I have actually 3 students enrolled at this moment. So we'll click login. And automatically, the student will be redirected to this particular page. Now, the first time he logs in, he will this particular window here is actually a tour, a user tour that will actually guide this student to navigate the PLMS. But we have not provided enough content for this one because this is actually automatically shown. But nevertheless, he can actually click next or he can end tour. So once the student is in the dashboard, he will be able to see the courses as to where the student is actually enrolled. He will also see the deadlines, the feedback, and forum posts if there are any. The messages may not be applicable at this stage because remember, our PLMS is actually a standalone system already. So imagine that this particular PLMS right now that we are trying to access is already on the student side. So right at this very moment, what other things the student can do? So while we are enrolling the student, we already have their personal name, right? They have their first name and last name. So the student can actually update it further by going to their profile. So they can provide additional details or probably complete personal information. And they just have to click on edit profile. So on this page, the student can update his first name or surname, the email address. So as you can see, the student can no longer change the username. The username that they have is already set by us, being the administrator of our PLMS. At the same time, what the student can actually do here, aside from the personal information, is they can upload a personal profile, their picture. So once they have done that, so let's just try to see if I have actually a picture. So let's try uploading a picture for this student. Let's click on upload file, browse. I'm not sure I have a good picture right now, but let me see if I have here something. So let's just utilize probably my personal picture will do. Let me utilize this one. Okay. And then once we have selected the picture, we upload the file. So once there are any changes made, make sure you click on the update profile so that the changes will take effect. So now I have already the profile picture above my name. Now, aside from the personal details, the student can also modify preferences. What are these preferences? There are actually several of them, but the notable one is actually changing of passwords. Okay, I must warn you, or this might depend on how you implement PLMS, but changing password probably is not advisable if this PLMS is going to be implemented. Well, implementation will be discussed tomorrow by Sergey, but I wouldn't recommend probably changing password, but it's really up to you. Okay, but anyway, let me just show to you. The student at this stage can actually change password. So when they click change password, so the student will provide the current password. So in here, you can now see this username. The username cannot be changed, only the teacher can do that one. Then you provide also, or the student provides a new password twice. So once he has provided the new password, he is going to click Save Changes. So at this stage, he is going to log in again to make sure that the password is actually working. But I will not do that right now, but at least you know that what the student can do at this very page. Okay, so there are other preferences that the student can change on this very page, but most of these preferences may not be necessary, considering that our PLMS is actually standalone at this very moment. Okay, so again, imagine that you already, or the student is already using this PLMS on their own. The PLMS is only a local instance of Moodle. So the changes will only take effect locally. So like, for example, forum preferences, so which may not be necessary because usually when we have our SOL, we normally receive emails, right? So in this case, it's not going to be applicable because the forums is only intended for announcements. So the badges, you can also implement badges if you want, but we have not discussed this during training, but we will probably include this one in the manual. Okay, so we will now go back to our dashboard. And at this stage, I'm going to discuss next viewing the course content. So edit profile. So personal details in here, as well as uploading also a picture. Okay, so he can update the first name and last name if it's not complete and so on. And then for the time zone, you can leave that as is. Anyway, we have the same time zone with Perth, Australia. And then picture, they can also upload picture if they want to. Then of course, in order for the changes to take effect, they need to click update profile. In this case, let's try uploading something just to see some changes. Let me try. I'm not sure if this will work, but let's give it a try. We now have uploaded a picture of Michael. And what other things that he can actually change? So the student can actually change their password if they want to. So under preferences, they have several options here to change, but most of them will not be applicable because our PLMS is standalone. So change password, they can do change password. So siguro it would now depend on how you're going to implement your PLMS, no? So maybe you don't want, you have a dedicated password for each student, or I don't think, if in my case, I don't think I would allow them to change password. Parang ang dami na nating password i-recall, diba? So it's really up to you at this stage, no? It's up to them, or it's up to you in terms of you want a password change to your student or not. So yes. And then badges, we're not using badges at this stage because, but this can be, I'm not sure if this can be implemented for PLMS, but I think it can be implemented. Pero this would be medyo advanced na siya ng konti, no? All right, so after, this is now the editing profile. So after this one, the student can go back to his dashboard. So the student will be able to view the recently accessed course. So si Michael, hindi pa siya pumasok, hindi pa siya nag-click ni IT Audit, kaya hindi siya nag-appear in the recently accessed course. But once Michael clicks on this IT Audit course, it will appear here. So on the dashboard, dito din makikita yung timeline of activities na dapat gagawin ni student. So may timeline na siya, and the calendar. So those highlighted will have a corresponding activities. So in a way, the student would be already on his own. He can take the quizzes on his own. He can do the readings and other learning activities on his own. So at this page, you will already see the users, the students who are in the system, no? So these students can be assigned to or enrolled to different courses, not necessarily to just one course, right? So if you click to any of this one, so let's say Michael Jordan, let me go back. I think it's the same here. So you have an edit on the right side. So you have a delete, hide or suspend user, and then edit, the small gear icon. So the small gear icon leads you to the preferences. So dalawa pong pwede puntahan. So you can click on, first you can click on the name itself of the student, and then you click on edit profile. And it is here you will see the username and the password. Okay. At this stage, hindi ko na check yung force password change. Because like I've said before, it may be dependent on how we implement. So what would happen if we check this one? The first time that particular student, or the first time si Michael mag-log in, he will be forced to change the password. So instead na yung ginamit ko na password for Michael was the same as his username, student4 din. So when he log in using the student4 password, he will be forced to change. So nagpa-prompt si PLMS to change the password to his preferred password. So this is the purpose of forced password change. So it's very important that if you want this to be implemented, you can check this box. At this juncture, we are going to view course content as a student in our PLMS. For this tutorial, we're going to discuss viewing course content. So at this very page, all we have to do is click on login, And I'm going to use the student account once again. I'm going to use student 3 in my case, and just click login. So once we are logged in, the student will be able to view the virtual course that we have created for them. And in order for the students to view the content of the course, he simply click on the course that he wants to view. So at this very page, he is now viewing the content. So on the left side are the course content specifically by topic, or this could also be arranged on a weekly format. It depends on how you set up the course at the very beginning. So for every section, the first section that I have here on the left side is introduction. And under introduction, there's actually several learning activities that the student can actually see, depending on how many you have placed in here. So for introduction, I only have here the welcome image, announcements, and a review of database. So from this very page, the student can already see what particular topics that he may able to go about. So he might need to start from the very beginning. And take note, I think it's also important to apply also what you have learned, wherein you apply the completion of activities in order or before the student can proceed to the next learning activity. So it is very important to consider also the completion. So let's say, for example, in this case, the first content that I have posted, so the student will be able to view a file. Well, of course, aside from the announcements, wherein the students can view announcements from here. And then if there are none, he can go back using the back button, or he can proceed to the next item. So in the next item, this is actually about reviewing about databases. So all he has to do is click on the PDF file, or he can actually go back to introduction on the left side, and then go scroll down and then click on the review of database. Normally, the type of content that is created can normally be identified based on the icon on the left. In this case, this refers to a file. So when I click on this one, if this is going to be a PDF file, it will open a new page. So in this case, it gives the student an option to read a more detailed reading material for them. So this could be the more relevant content, perhaps a more detailed content. But you have to understand that as much as possible, let us simplify the PDF material that's going to be placed inside our PLMS, because it's going to bloat also our PLMS in the long run. Okay, so that's the first content that I have added. And if you want to do the completion, so the student might want to click on the check option here. So meaning to say he is already, or he has done reviewing that ebook and done reading. So he finished that particular activity. So he can also see for himself that he is progressing. So the progress is now 1/1. So then he can proceed to the next section. So this section goes a little bit deeper in terms of how you are arranging your course content. So we now proceed to a more specific topic. So we now go to the introduction to IT audit. So you can have just a regular text here, a summary perhaps about this introduction. And then there are several contents that you can already add throughout this particular section. So the first one is actually content in a folder. I believe you have already added a folder. So when we click on the content in a folder, what will the student do is simply click on it, and then it redirects to the contents of that particular folder. So you can have several options here. You can add a text file, an image, or even a video file if necessary, because if you might want to come up with something that are all related but they are in different formats, that is actually okay. Now when the student click on each file, it will be downloaded to their computer. So they can actually download each file separately. And if they want to download all the files at once, they can click on the download folder. So if they want to click on the download folder, it will be in a compressed format, and they will have to unzip the file after downloading. And if they want to click on individual file, it will automatically prompt the student in terms of how to open that particular file. All right, I hope that is clear enough for viewing content in a folder. So let me go back to the next one. So right after viewing the content and probably the student is done with a particular activity, he can again tick this circle with a check mark, and then he is now complete with that particular activity. So he's progressing already from 1 out of 6 activities. The next one is actually a label. So I have added here, the label doesn't have any identifying icon, but it simply gives you an option to give a brief introduction of what particular content you are trying to place inside. So it says there, this is the human embryo and fetus development. Of course, this is not related to ID audit, but this is the best example that I want to illustrate because of the file format that I have shown. So what I have actually added here is not a video file. It's actually a GIF file. You might have seen this several times in your social media. So there are actually several GIF files that are really informative. And if you're really want to take advantage of GIF files, you can actually convert a movie file into a GIF file, although this is going to be limited to just certain minutes or seconds. So the reason why I'm showing this one, because the GIF file as illustrated here already contains a very sufficient information, and it's also animated. However, creating this one might require a little bit of reading and technicality, but there are a lot of converters online that is actually free. So you can take advantage of that one. So having this particular label content, once the student is done reading and reviewing this content, he can also tick the completion tick mark on the right side. And then once it's done, his progress would now be 2 out of 6. Now the next part, I believe what I have is also a folder. So again, the same process. The user opens the folder, and then the folder would contain at least one or multiple files, and he can download each file individually, or he can actually download this folder. Now you can also add in here a file. Let's say, for example, you have an activity about an Excel file. So in that particular Excel file, let's say one of the files you have here is all about a reading material, and then the next file is about a problem with a corresponding solution. Then the third file is probably the problem with their corresponding that the student needs to answer. That's actually a particular option. And yes, they are going to download that file, and they could actually use that file that they have downloaded from here to be submitted in your succeeding assignment. You see? So they are going to utilize, this is very much applicable if you're probably doing some kind of data analysis and you want to give the students the set of data that they're going to analyze. So they're going to download that particular data in here based on an Excel file. Once they have downloaded it, they answer whatever questions you have in that Excel file or whatever data analysis that they're going to do. After which, they are going to utilize the same file and upload it in the assignment uh, activity. So that's one of the best way so that the student will no longer have to come up with their own file. So you have an idea already in terms probably of uniformity. Okay, so we can go back, and then once the student is done, he can actually tick on that completion activity once again. So viewing course content in our PLMS is really very easy. And in fact, I have added also another content here, which is actually a video. So the video in here is also a label. So this is simply a label. I added a short text tutorial on IT systems, and then I actually added the video file. So the video file is not really big, it is just very short. And this also helps the students create a little bit of interactivity, perhaps because of the variation of content that we place inside our PLMS. But I must warn you, please try to limit your video files into micro learnings or micro lessons. Make it smaller so that, again, our PLMS would not become so big once we compile them later on. All right, that ends our session on viewing course content. So I hope you are learning something from it. At this stage, we want to answer assignment. So do you have an assignment there? So as a student, depending on how you actually implemented the assignment, it could be without an attachment or with an attachment. So first, we'll answer an assignment without an attachment. So in this case, the student will just click on assignment 1. And then you will see this one. Now, so when the student clicks on add submission, when they want to submit an assignment, what will appear is only the box. Okay, so this is the only one that will appear now, online text. So yes, it's they will going to type in here the corresponding what do you call this, answer for that particular question. This assignment that we are going to apply is submission of a file. So we have a required submission. Okay, so for assignment 2, we have here the details of the assignment, and all I have to do is click add submission. Now in this case, the box where we type the online text is not there anymore. Because this particular assignment, you are requiring the student to submit only a file without any text na. Just submit the file. So the instructions should be clear at this stage in terms of how you want or how the students is going to submit the particular assignment. So in this case, I want the assignment to be compiled in a document file and in PDF format. Okay, so we can always set the file format for this particular file submission. Kasi we want to avoid unnecessary, we just want to make it easier, no? Because in PDF format, once we open the files, Hindi kasi siya nasisira yung layout and so on. Okay? So, yan. And what the student can do right now is just select for the file. Kung meron na siyang answer, just browse for the file. Wait. Let's try muna if, remember I mentioned I only require a PDF format. Let's see if I have actually set the setting for this one to see if it will work. Okay. Try ko mag-upload kasi PDF document file lang yung na-specify ko. So let's see if we'll accept a PNG file. Okay, so yan ang mangyayari. So what will happen is that mag-error. So that means this particular assignment will be requires only a document in PDF form. Okay, let me just check if I have a PDF form here. So in this case, we are expecting a PDF file to be uploaded. So once you have the right file and once the student click upload this file, it should be accepted. There you are. So once you're done, the student will just have to click on Save Changes. In order for the user to answer a quiz, all they have to do is make sure they are in the actual course and that particular section. And then all they have to do is click on the quiz itself. So for this particular quiz, it is still open and the time limit is just 15. And the grading method is the highest grade. So once the student attempts the quiz, the timer also starts. No? So let's try. I hope you are also trying from your end. So start attempt. This is only, I think this is a 5-item quiz. So next. So the paging of the questionnaires will also depend on how you have set up your quiz. So remember, you have the paging while you are still setting up those questions. So in one page, it will not always be just one question. Some students would prefer to have several questions in one page so that there would be lesser clicks of next page and previous page. So that's what I also do to my quizzes. Since this is only a 5-item quiz, so it's okay probably to have one question per page. Okay, just click next. So depending on what type of questions you have in there, and then finish attempt. Once they click on finish attempt, there will be a summary of the attempt. So at this stage, the student can actually go back for any item that they might have missed. They probably have a difficulty answering a particular question and they are not yet decided, so they can actually skip that item and then move to the next, and then just come back for it later on. To view activity completion. So of course, for activity completion, viewing the activity of our students, you need to be logged in as what do you call this? As a teacher, as an admin. So the student cannot view the overall activities that has been completed. So while you are in the course, okay, I hope you're with me. Click on the gear icon. And then we now go to reports. And then in this case, we click on activity completion.